We are going to look at the rest of the analytical models, and we will quickly look at the way the SPSS is also going to help you in terms of the model. So first and foremost is a quick look at the theory, then see it with the help of a case, and then go back to seeing it on the software should you use the SPSS software to do that. And thereafter, if any questions are there, after that we will proceed, perhaps from tomorrow you can proceed into the last module or the last unit of your syllabus, which is relating to report writing. All right, so all of you have already accessed the material that I have already put on the LMS. So we will quickly go through the next the analytical model which is there. This is just for you to understand, although you're not required to manually do any calculation, but have an understanding, like I've been telling you before, about the different ways in which the the different analytical tools can be used for your application purpose. So main is to understand the application purpose, and sometimes when we are doing these kind of research analysis or analysis for the purpose of research, you will be able to get the different kinds of tools and techniques to be used through different kinds of application software. So that's not going to be an issue too much. So if we look at the first one for today, so we've already completed, if you can put in the chat box also, do you remember what we have completed in the last class? Last time that we had, the class, what is the analytical technique that you remember having gone through? You can put it in the chat box, the type of technique that was discussed in the last class. And the second thing is, first thing is name the technique, or name the analytical tool that was discussed. And second of all, if you can also share in the chat box the examples that we have taken for discussing that. What do we mean by the examples? What was the example that was used? So you can refer the case study PDF that was given, and you can tell what is the example that we had taken for discussing that first analytical technique that was discussed on Saturday. So quickly, you can have the answers coming into the chat box. And in the meantime, we will start with the logistic regression. So logistic regression, as you know, it is a statistical method, but it's a slightly different one as discussed from the discriminant analysis that was last discussed. And basically for analyzing any kind of data set or data dump, wherein the independent variables are there, and you basically want to find out the probability of a particular respondent or an object belonging to a certain class, which is a dependent variable. So basically the dependent variable is a categorical variable again, and in this case we are talking about groups which can be distinguished between the number of groups will be 2. So the dependent variable can be categorized into 2 groups. Discriminant we looked at, where the categorization can be done in more than two or more than 2 groups. So the goal of logistic regression is to find out the best fitting model. So the entire output of the software will be there, wherein you can get the output from the software, which will tell you the kind of regression analysis that is being done. But in the case of logistic regression, you will get the probability of a particular object or a set of, out of that set of the respondents or objects whose data is collected through the data set, the probability of a particular object falling into a particular group will be given by this kind of an analysis. So goal of logistic regression is to find out the best fitting model to describe the relationship between the dichotomous characteristic of interest, which is a dependent variable, which you can categorize into 2 categories. So the dependent variable in the logistic regression would be an outcome wherein you are trying to categorize the object or objects into 1 or the 2 groups. So the relationship between this and the set of independent variable is similar to what you find in the regression model. The only difference with the regression model basically is that the regression model dependent variable basically is an interval or a ratio scaled item or a continuous measurement scale item. In the case of logistic regression or discriminant analysis, the dependent variable happens to be a categorical variable. So logistic regression also defines the coefficients in the form of a formula, which is a logic transformation of the probability of presence of the character of interest. So if you now look at the difference or what is this basically into? It is a regression model that allows the prediction of discrete variables by a mix of continuous and discrete predictors. Predictors basically are independent variables in the equation. So in the equation, you will have on the left hand side, you will have the dependent variable, and on the right side of the equation, you will have a set of independent variables along with the combination of a constant. So this regression also addresses the same question that discriminant function analysis and multiple regression do, but with no distributional assumptions on the predictors. That is, the predictors do not have to be normally distributed, linearly related, or any equal variance in each group. So basically, when you try to understand the linear regression versus the logistic regression part of it, because it looks and it sounds like that, you need to understand that in a linear regression, this multiple regression or single regression that you know about, the target is an interval variable, which is the dependent variable. Whereas in the case of logistic regression, the target is a discrete variable, which could be a binary 2-category variable, right? Or you can rank it in terms of the first and the second category. The input variables can have any measurement level. Same thing in the case of the logistic regression also. The predicted variable values in the linear regression are the mean of the target variable at the given points of the input variables. Basically, it is you can have a continuous, or you can have a metric scale analysis done out of the outcome of the regression analysis. Logistic regression, the predicted values are the probability of a particular level of the target variable. So you can use data sets to predict whether certain, say you can use it for marketing, for HR, for finance, in the manner like this. For example, you can predict whether a group of people, when you get the data, you can predict whether someone might be buying something or not. What is the probability of somebody buying something or not? What is the probability of a customer being of a certain characteristic or not? So the probability aspect of belonging to one group or the other is basically the purpose of using logistic regression. You can also use it in terms of the financial sector. You want to find out whether a certain category of investments might belong to the higher returns category or a lower returns category. You can use it for HR kind of analysis to find out, say, for example, distinguishing between two sets of groups of employees or two sets of groups of workers, and you want to, categorize these employees or this kind of resources based on certain input variables, certain independent variables. All right. So let's quickly now look at, I will stop this one along with this theory. Let us have a look at the case that was given to all of you rather. And let us have a look at how this basically works out. So there was a case given about using the logistic regression on a data set of customers who are choosing different brands of wine. So this is what you see on the screen. I hope it is visible on the screen. Please let me know if it is not visible. So there is a particular data set. So what you see here is a sample data set. So how many data inputs have been there? There are about 32 responses which have been captured for the use of the example in this case. So here in this case, a researcher in the marketing domain, he wants to understand the characteristics of people that determine which one of the two brands of red wine they would prefer, any product they would prefer. Data is collected on 30, 15 of whom prefer brand A and 15 of whom prefer brand B. So here you have a set of 30 here, which is having different age groups, gender, income, and choice. Right? Are you able to see this data set? The age is in actual number of years. Gender is categorized with a dummy variable, 0 being female, 1 is male. Income is again in thousands of rupees currency amount, which is again a metric variable, continuous variable, right? Ratio scale variable. And choice of the brand, choice of which brand? The brand of wines being mentioned in this case, the customer choice for a brand of red wine, brand A is coded as 0 and brand B is coded as 1. So if you have such a data set wherein data has been collected, the purpose is to find out what is the probability that the customer will choose brand A or brand B. All right. Quickly, if you look at the way in which discriminant analysis work, if you see the previous example for the purpose of kind of comparison, here you would see that the discriminant analysis that we had done in the previous class happened to be about a company trying to categorize the territorial sales inspectors with whether they were effective or successful, or whether they were not effective or not successful. Because the purpose was they would like to arm them. They would like to give them a pumped up system which would enhance the performance of these TSIs. All right. So the purpose of using that particular data here in this case of discriminant analysis was to find out the probability or the case in which the likelihood of a particular TSI or any respondent in this case be categorized into a effective TSI or a non-effective TSI, potentially successful TSI coded with 2 or potentially unsuccessful TSI coded with 1. All right. So how was the data looking like? The data was looking like this for the input purpose of discriminant analysis. The potential of the TSI coded as 1 or 2. What is the coding of 1? 1 was unsuccessful, potentially unsuccessful TSI. All right. And coding 2 was for potentially successful TSI. The other input which was taken in this case was the number of years of experience, which was a continuous variable. The sales amount that was produced by the TSI was in rupee amount, and the number of dealers covered by the TSI was in numbers, continuous variable. So in this case, the independent variables were continuous variables, and the dependent variable was whether somebody could be categorized as a successful TSI or an unsuccessful TSI. And what we found out is that there was a discriminant function from which it was able to classify the object, in this case, the respondent of interest, who's a TSI, into whether the particular respondent or object in the data set would have a score, discriminant score, to classify them into either of the groups of successful TSI or unsuccessful TSI. If the discriminant score was more towards the first category, it would have to be classified. That is, if it is 1, it would be classified as a unsuccessful TSI, and if it was 2, it was going to be classified as a successful TSI. In this case, the discriminant scores were brought out from this table, wherein we would need to find out the discriminant score out of the discriminant function and get to know whether the scores are falling to the left of the 0 to the extent of minus 1.5133, and find out if any score was falling to the left of the mean of 0, then it would be categorized as 1, which was a unsuccessful TSI. And if it was going to be categorized with a discriminant score of positive value to the right side of the 0 score, having values ranging from 0 to plus 1.5133, then the particular respondent would have a discriminant score which would categorize them into the second category. All right. Now, in this case, the resultant of this analysis was to find a discriminant score Y, dependent variable, and the dependent variable is a categorical variable which was grouping category, and the combination, the discriminant function, was of the format of Y is equal to a constant plus k1x1 plus k2x2, or going up to knxn, depending on the number of variables that you have independent. And in this case, the discriminant score is found out from that particular discriminant function. In this case of logistic regression, the difference is that you would like to find out not a score, but to find out a probability. So in this case of probability usage, logarithmic calculations are normally done. So even if you're not comfortable or you don't need to manually do the calculation, the usage is primarily when you want to predict the probability of an object or a respondent falling into a particular group or not. That is why it's a binary decision. It's like two groups only are there. You want to find out whether certain objects or certain respondents, certain things can be categorized into a group or needs to be categorized into the other group. So what is the probability? That's why we said the application, for example, like we said, application for such an analytics model would be to predict the probability of a customer buying something or not buying something. In this case, for example, we would like to find out whether a customer would prefer brand A or brand B of what? Of a product. In this case, it's a wine manufacturing or wine brand that we're talking about. So marketer and researcher wants to understand the characteristics of people which determine which one of the two brands of wine that they prefer. Now, what are the characteristics of the customers that are available? You will have the age of the customer, you will have the income of the customer, you will have the gender of the customer, right? So when it is age, gender, and income, what are these characteristics actually? When we talk about age, gender, income, what characteristics are these? Are these psychological characteristics or demographic characteristics or behavioral characteristics? What characteristics are these? Quickly, if you recall your your basic management or marketing classes, what characteristics are these? These are something to do with the population characteristics, right? So what is population characteristics? These are something to do with demographic characteristics. So in this case, certain characteristics of the customer are given as part of the data, and the purpose is to find out whether certain customer is likely. What is the probability that a customer will choose a brand? Probability of choosing a brand, right? So the gender wise data is given. Gender is coded as 0 for female and 1 for male. Income is coded with continuous values. The age is also in continuous scale, that is actual age. And the choice is either 0 or 1. What is choice, 0 or 1? 0 meaning if they have chosen brand A. 1 is if they have chosen brand B. So what do we see? We see the first few data entries, like 21 years age person who's a female having 3,000 rupees per month income chose brand A. All right, that's the first data entry. Second data entry, what does it mean? It means a person of age 22 who is a female, a lady with 8,000 rupees of income per month chose brand A. All right. Now, if you go down, the first data which appears with the choice for brand B is from a person who's of the age of 65 years, who is a male, because gender has been coded as 1, with 13,000 rupees per month income, who has chosen, the choice is 1, coding 1, which is brand B. All right. So like this, the data entirely goes out. The SPSS will throw out a model summary. There are certain things that needs to be observed here. So what it is trying to do is that it will give out the variables in the equation. This is what you need to capture or what you need to actually focus on. So it is not important for you to do the calculations manually, but it is very important as a management resource person to understand how to interpret the variables. So here what you get is the variables in the equation, and the prediction model will be in the form of the log of the odds of choice. So odds basically is that probability of certain thing happening divided by the probability of the other thing happening. So probability, say for a coin throwing up heads is 0.5, and the probability of a tail coming up is what? It also has a probability of 5, because the total probability is 1, right? But if you take away the probability of a heads coming up, so 1 minus 0.5 is equal to 0.5, and odds is defined as the 0.5 divided by the 0.5. So you cannot have the odds or the probability of something going to be exceeding 1. In this case, you're going to pick out the variables in the logistic regression equation in the form of certain constants and the coefficient of income, gender, and age. Now let us quickly look at what is the independent variable here. Independent variable happens to be age, gender, income, because choice is your dependent variable. You want to find out the probability of a person choosing a brand A, category 0, or brand B, which is categorized as 1. So the probability of the choice is dependent variable, which is on the left side of the equation, and on the right side of the equation would be the independent variables and their coefficient. So on the right hand side, you will get the independent variables of age, gender, and income with certain coefficients, which you will get from the table, which will come out as part of the SPSS, which will say that the variables in the equation are, and you will have to read out, leave out the rest of this thing, then read out the ones which have a value against the corresponding variable. So age has a corresponding coefficient of 0.443, gender has a coefficient of 8.783, income has 0.398, and the constant in this equation is minus 24.706. So you need to take the log of the odds of choice 1 as minus 24.706 plus 0.443, which is a coefficient of age, plus 8.783 plus of that is of gender, and 0.398, which is the coefficient of income. And when you get that, once you do this, you will have different kinds of predicted probabilities for different classes, which means for the first respondent, actually, when we got the data showed that he had a choice which was of 0. That is, 0 means brand A. You remember the coding? 0 is brand A, 1 is brand B. So how robust is this model? The model is robust because the prediction of the probability was that it should be a customer who prefers brand A, and the model has correctly predicted that the the respondent or the customer actually has chosen brand A and has been categorized or has been coded with the coding of 0. Similarly, for each of the respondents, once you have the input data, which is your gender, income, and the the annual here, for example, here, gender, age, income, these are the, if you see, let me just point it out here with the okay, with the spotlight here, right? So this is your equation and this is your constant. This is your coefficient of age, gender coefficient, and the coefficient of income. So these three, age, gender, income, happen to be the independent variable which is defining the choice of the brand into either 0 or 1, the probability of choosing. And remember, the probability cannot exceed 1, because certain things you need to be very clear is that the probability as a concept also will be defined as several decimal factors which will summatively add up to 1. So the illustration shows that the predicted probability of all the observations, all the recorded cases have certain values. So what you need to do is you will need to take that value, the software will give you the value and it will show out that there is a value which you will need to enter, and you will be able to predict whether the probability is something which will be helping you to categorize the respondents into a class of either first group or second group. All right. So in this case, for each of the respondents or for each of the data entry, you will have the logarithmic value of the odds of the case, and the values will finally be converted into a probability. For example, in this case, the first one in this case will be 0.9955, which means it is more a probability which is towards 1. This probability is greater than 0.5. So the person is classified into group 1, shown in the last column of the data set, which corresponds to what? 0 was brand A, 1 is brand B. So whenever this value is coming up, which is like say probability of 0.995, probability of 0.9 is more close towards 1. It definitely exceeds the mean value of 0.5. And so between the two groups with a value of 0, coding 0 and 1, you are getting the fact that the person can be categorized as a person who is going to choose brand B. All right. So this is the use of logistic regression. Now, if we go on to understand, in effect, if you really find out, there are certain things that are really going to work out, which is more commonly used than, for example, what you're seeing here on the screen. So more often we use a concept of analysis, which is very, very, what should I say, commonly used among all domains in management, is the analytical tool of factor analysis. All right. So factor analysis, unlike the previous two methods, it deals with data reduction, and it deals with purely all interval scale data, continuous scale of data. And there's a purpose behind using this particular analysis, because it has wide application, whether it is measuring attitude, perception, opinions of people, subjective aspects, which you need to understand, you can find out. So there is no limitation about how you can take the opinions of people, how you can elicit preferences of people. So it is so huge that collecting data, if you remember the Ohio lottery case study, all of you will see that to measure the attitude, perception, or what people feel like, or how people give importance to something like lottery, or for that matter any kind of application in management, say in HR or marketing or finance, people want to find out how much their employees think about a company, how good or bad they think about the company, what is it that is the perception of people towards their organization or employers. Or you want to find out in marketing, what do consumers think about us, what is the perception of people, what is the perception of buyers versus non-buyers. In finance, if you want to find out what do investors think about, what do investors prefer, how do investors like something or don't like something. So this deals with a lot of data. So this factor analysis basically helps in using the analytical technique to reduce the data and reduce the complexity of data by reducing the number of variables to a set of variables which will most essentially communicate the important factors which affect something, which affect some phenomenon. All right. So what happens is here it is not about whether you want to find out whether some element or some object or some respondent belongs to a group or not. It's not about that. It is about trying to find out the attitudinal aspects of something, opinions about something, subjective, reading about something. So you want to find out, the subjective factors out of many factors that were used to study a phenomenon. All right. So how is it different from the previous two analytical techniques? Discriminant analysis had a discriminant score. Use it to categorize respondents or object into 2 or more categories, right? Using a discriminant function. What was logistic regression using? It was trying to use certain, again, independent variables, which were, interval or ratio scaled, and you would try to categorize the people based on these characteristics into 2 groups, users or non-users, buyers or not buyers, choosing something or not choosing something, effective people or not effective people, like that. Factor analysis, on the other hand, now talks about trying to reduce the data, which means what? Which means you are likely to start with the huge quantum of data. What kind of data? Interval scale data. What do we mean by interval scale data? We mean by interval scale data something data which you can work on quantitatively, right? So you can use Likert scales, importance scales, preference scales, satisfaction scales, wherein people are expressing their opinion in a scale of numbers which are equidistant from each other, indicating something. So it could be a 5-point scale, it could be a 7-point scale, and you will be getting some values. And on those values that you get, you can quantitatively do a lot of measurements, including averaging the scores or finding the mean, median, mode, all of that. You can do it. You can do a summation of the scale to find out the average score for people on a certain criteria, all of that. And here it is important to recall the fact that the more the items are there in a scale, it will help you to understand that the reliability of the measuring instrument is high. Because if you remember, I had told you that Cronbach's alpha, which is a reliability score that we get from the software to find out whether a scale, interval scale item, set of items that we are using in a questionnaire or administering in a questionnaire, is it reliable or not, is to check the Cronbach's alpha score, which must necessarily be above what? Cronbach's alpha score, it should be above 0.7 ideally. A lot of authors mention it should be 0.6 and above, but for a lot of practical usage, we consider 0.7 and above to indicate the reliability of the scale. But this Cronbach's alpha, to give you a high reliability score, it can be done also in a method by increasing the number of items in a scale. So number of statements that you use. The more statements that you use is likely to inflate the Cronbach's alpha score. So that is why it's very important to understand that should you use certain items or not, because if you use too many scale items, that is, if you ask too many questions to the respondent, it is also possible that they have a fatigue, or they are not interested, or they get uninterested, they find it very complex, they find it very confusing, and they might not give you the right answer. So in effect, in order to take care of the reliability, you must not end up making the questionnaires very confusing and very long and complex. So factor analysis basically helps us to understand how you can reduce this data into lesser number of variables to capture essentially what is trying to be measured, right? So if you come back on the screen here, so factor analysis is used for data reduction. It is used for reducing the data complexity by reducing the number of variables being studied. So that is the second point. The third point that you need to remember is all variables should be interval or continuous scale. Can you give some examples? Students, can you put some examples on the chat box? What do you mean by interval scaled data or continuous scale data? Can you give some examples? Can you give some examples, please? For example, one example I can tell you is Likert scale is a interval scale data, right? Likert scale. Do you remember what is a Likert scale? What are the items in that scale? Likert scale, certain things about agreeing to something, not agreeing to something. What are the points in the scale? Is it a 3-point scale or a 5-point scale or a 7-point scale? So you can mention that in the chat box. What other scales can be used? You can use satisfaction scales. Can you use intention scale, intention to buy? Purchase intention. Can you check your questionnaires and put across some of the questions that you think are interval scaled items? Have you asked people whether they agree with the concept or not, with a point of view or not? So if you remember Ohio lottery case, what were some of the questions that were there? Do you remember some of the questions which were there in the Ohio lottery case? Anyone remembers? Ohio lottery, there were certain questions that were asked and there were certain set of answers to be given either on a 7-point scale. Most of them were 7-point, they were not 5-point. And there was a question that we were discussing in class that if you have 7-point scale, is it very difficult to control for analysis? So many of you had seen that a 5-point scale was used for analysis, but if you have 7-point scale, some of you are saying that it becomes very, very difficult to analyze, isn't it? That is what was being discussed. So if we talk about the factor analysis, here all the variables have to be interval scaled or continuous scale. So I was trying to put up the case study here that was given out to all of you. So let us see the case study. 1 minute. So interval scale, we were asking the question that what is an interval scale item? Can we get some examples? So let us see some examples here. So factor analysis, the case study that I've given to all of you, the factor analysis case study with the solution. So you see here, there's an example given here that private domestic airline operators raised their fare in December of a certain year, 2000. Indian Airlines, a government-owned carrier, was the only domestic airline which did not follow suit, which is it didn't follow the protocol. Information available, that is the source is Economic Times. It showed that people still prefer to fly Jet Airways. The reasons for the above preference had to be ascertained, as according to Indian Airlines officials, domestic flyers are price conscious. That's what Indian Airlines felt as a company. So the study, so a research was conducted. The study consisted of 20 respondents. 20 people were contacted who had recently flown with Jet Airways. They were asked to indicate on a 7-point scale, okay, ranging from 1 is equal to completely agree to 7 is equal to completely disagree. Their agreement to disagreement with this set of 10 statements relating to their perception and attributes of the airline. It's been underlined in the case. So interval scale items are used mainly to measure, in this case, for example, perception and attributes of the airline. All right, any doubts on perception and attribute? Attribute, characteristics. Perception is what people feel, right? So what are some of the statements? The statements were like this. Let me just put the spotlight. So the 10 statements were, first statement was, Jet Airways are always on time. So you can imagine how the questionnaire is made. So Jet Airways is always on time. People had to answer on a scale of 1 to 7, where 1 is completely agree and 7 is completely disagree, right? So 1 would be completely agree, 2nd would be agree, right? Slightly agree, 3rd would be agree, 4th would be a neutral point, 5 would be disagree, so 8 would be slightly disagree, and then you would have the 7 points. 7th point which would be completely disagree. So it's a 1 to 7 scale. Statements used were, first statement was Jet Airways is always on time. Second statement, look at the the flash point here, spotlight given, the seats are very comfortable. People had to give their answers on a scale of 1 to 7. Third point, I love the food they provide. Fourth point, their air hostesses are very beautiful. All right. As fifth point, my boss or friend flies with the same airline. People had to respond on a scale of 1 to 7. So basically reference point, word of mouth. Sixth, the airlines have younger aircrafts. What do you mean by younger actually? Aircrafts which are bought recently, right? Which are not old. Seventh, I get the advantage of a frequent flyer program. You know, the rewards program, the more they fly, the more the miles that they accumulate, they will get some points which they can use to buy gifts or maybe get discounts. Eighth point, the flight timing suits my schedule. All right. So remember, the studies was being done for customers of Jet Airways. So they have asked a question whether Jet Airways flight timings suited the schedule of the customers. Ninth, my mom feels safe when I fly jet. Okay, that's about the reliability, the kind of mental peace. 10th scale item was flying jet complements my lifestyle and social standing in the society. So what do you think is a 10th point basically? 10th point basically is to indicate, perhaps to find out whether, basically what are these 10 statements getting used for finding the perception and attributes that people feel about Jet Airways. So the 10th point could be whether people were having some kind of a social status by, if they were to declare that they were flying jet. All right. So these 10 statements are examples of the interval scale items. And there's a way in which you go about doing the analysis. Again, no manual calculations to be done by hand. You just need to understand that this technique can be used when you have interval scaled items used in your questionnaire. Interval scale items like you saw here, the Likert scale items, which could be a 5-point or a 7-point scale. Interest, for example, customer interest on something, employee interest on something, satisfaction scales, performance measurement scales, perception scales, intention to buy scales, all these which are interval scales. So here you cannot use nominal scale. All right, you cannot use ordinal scale. Right, this is something that you need to remember. So now when you do that, this is the example of the case that we're going to use. Now let's quickly go back to the concept of, to understand the theory first. So let us understand the theory. So let's go back to the theoretical part of it. And then we will come back and see how it is getting analyzed, right? Okay, so let's see that, continue. So factor analysis is a technique used for data reduction. It is used for reducing data complexity by reducing the number of variables or number of items that are being studied. Third point is, and I'm ticking this, it's used for identifying the latent or underlying factors from an array of seemingly important variables. So you try to find out some of the most important items that can be used to study something among the many items that are there. Next point, which is all variables should be interval scaled or continuous scale. Can you use nominal scale? Gender 1, female, 2 male, can you use that? No, you cannot use that. You should use interval scale or ratio scaled items. How do you conduct factor analysis? The process is given. Main thing again is to interpret the output, right? You're not required to do the analysis by hand. That be understanding. Your understanding should be that you should be able to understand how or what is the output and do the interpretation. That is a more important thing, because statisticians can do the analysis. That's not important for you to, get a hang of. It's important if you can do the analysis, if you can do the calculation, but because you have multiple variables, you have more than three or more variables being studied at a time, it's not possible to do a calculation by hand of all the coefficients and scores. So it's better to use a tool. So how do you conduct the factor analysis? It's given here. The factor analysis can be first done by conducting a Bartlett's test of sphericity to determine that there are some significant correlations among the variables. That's something that you need to remember. I'll be inputting the videos also, instructional videos, should you require to refer this in the future. Stage 1 would be to extract the factor, which is called the factor extraction process by principal component analysis. All right, this is something that you need to remember. The compute and interpret the eigenvalue, EIGEN. Eigenvalue basically is a value which explains the variance that each item has among the many items that are used. And the eigenvalue, the factors will be kept whose eigenvalues are more than 1. Okay, again, the eigenvalues, are given in the sample output in the case. That is why the cases are very important, because one is to understand the theory of factor analysis, but second most important is to understand how the factor analysis, like I have discussed about discriminant and logic, how they are actually applied in real life. So you have to interpret. First thing that the business researcher or business manager needs to get hold of is the factor extraction process output. So you need to get the extraction done by principal component analysis, get the factors and get the eigenvalue. That column should be there with the eigenvalues, and pick up those factors which have an eigenvalue of more than 1, because each item initially in the set of items that are used for the analysis, each item is assumed to have a value of 1, which explains the entire variance. So you need to keep those values which have eigenvalue of more than 1 among the list. We will see that. And then there's a rotation of principal components to be done using Varimax rotation. What are these factors? Again, recall your statistics class. There's a reason behind doing all these calculations. So in factor analysis, we are choosing the Varimax rotation. And the third step would be, once you get the factors that are coming out, you will have to name the factors. And this is what is the task of a business researcher. All right, number one, get the factors which have eigenvalue of more than 1, get the rotation of the factors done. And out of the rotation of the factors, you will see that the factors which have more than 1 value should be picked up and should be explored further. All right, so let us see once again. Now, application of the factors would be that you should be finding out whether the data is giving you certain patterns which you can interpret. So data reduction would be done by reducing the factors, by reducing it to a set of factors, and you are only picking up those factors which have eigenvalue of more than 1. You are going to rotate the solution and read out the values coefficients from the rotated component matrix, and then find out whether it is going to meet up and reduce the data values that we were expecting. All right, so let us go back and understand that with the help of the case here. So the case here we saw was a test research being done on Jet Airways using how many scale items? How many scale items were used? 10 items. 10 scale items, 10 statements about checking on, in this case, we were seeing the case study about analysis of customers, or a research study for checking on customers who had flown with Jet Airways. 10 statements were used. 10 statements which were measured on a scale of 1 to 7, right? Interval scale data was used. So why were we using this? Because it was important to check the perception and attributes of the airline. What are the data? The data set is given as an example here. So how many set of people, or how many people were sampled? In this case, 20 respondents, 20 people were contacted, and various items pertaining to their responses were captured, right? If you remember, that's why you have all done sample preparation of a questionnaire. You have collected some data and you coded it. Remember coding of the data, 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, like that. So what do you find here? There are certain variables on the labeled on the columns: on time, comfort, food, hostess, all of that. So these are basically 10 items, all right, of the 10 scales that are put up here. You remember 10 statements were used. First is Jet Airways is always on time. Where is it captured? Let me put the spotlight here. The capturing is in the second column. The first column is actually serial number, right? All of you are hopefully able to see that, right? Maybe I need to just point it out. On time, have you seen? I'm ticking it. Second one, comfort, is a second variable. Which is comfort actually? Comfort, from where is it coming? That question is here. The seats are very comfortable, right? Third statement asked, I love the food they provide. Love the food they provide. Let us see, where should it come actually? This is the third column, food, right? And what is the option actually? Why is it in 1s and 2s? Because the option is anywhere from 1 to 7. 1 is completely agree, 7 is completely disagree, right? So where do we get this? We are getting it here. Let me just point it out again. So food. Have you seen some of the numbers I am circling here? It's number 3, number 4. What is this number? These are numbers that is from the scale 1 to 7. This 4 is indicating more towards disagree. So the range was 1 to 7. 1 was completely agree to completely disagree. So I have circled one number against food by the 7th respondent, whose response has been coded as 2. What does 2 mean? 2 means what? When the scale is 1 completely agree to completely disagree, 2 would mean that they agreed on that, right? On that particular statement. So this is what your sample items are. You can also input such data to find out how it works. So the input data is like this. Next thing would be the principal component analysis is actually ordered by the software. And you will see that there is an eigenvalue which is mentioned. Now here I am again pointing out with the help of annotation. See, the eigenvalue column is here. Have you seen? All right. So the factor extraction process using principal component analysis has to be done. Business decision. Your decision as a business researcher or a business manager using business research is to pick out those factors. Pick out those factors which have eigenvalue of more than 1. So which value has more than 1? Here you have one factor, 3.17, definitely more than 1. Another eigenvalue of 3.04991, eigenvalue of more than 1, we will pick up. And we will pick up an eigenvalue of 1.8, which is more than 1. So we will pick out. So how many factors can be picked up? So we realize that there are 3 factors that we can pick up. So 3 factors will comprise of different variables. All right. So let us see what are the other factors. The 4th factor has an eigenvalue of 0.90, 0.90 less than 1. We will not pick up. So this will not get picked up. I am crossing it out. For a 5th factor, 0.66. 0.66 less than 1. We will not pick up. Right. So actually the output will actually get listed in the descending order with the highest value of the eigenvalue coming first and reducing as it goes down. So if you see here, it is reducing. The eigenvalue started with 3.177, next was 3.0, next was 1.8, and then 0.9. So you just have to interpret and pick out that how many factors can I pick up from this study for this particular example. 3 factors can be picked up because the 3rd factor has 1.8, and after that the factors have eigenvalue of less than 1, which is starting from values like 0.990. The rest of it we don't need to see. Percentage of variation means the first factor adds up to or contributes to 31.8% variation in the entire data set. The second factor has individually 30.5% variation. Cumulatively, this column cumulatively shows means 31.8 plus 30.5 here means it is 62.8, some figure which is here. So this is the cumulative calculation. 3rd factor here means it is 80. What is 80 here means 31.8. The second factor 30.5 plus 18.4. All right. So cumulative variance of 3 factors. So which means eigenvalue of 1 greater than 1 has been used to pick up the 3 factors, and these 3 factors contribute 80.7% of the variation, which means if you only pick up 3 factors out of the entire set, it will explain 80% of the variation in the responses of the respondents. All right. So let's quickly go down and see what is the next step. So we're going to say that there is a factor matrix. So the software automatically has picked up and chosen 3 factors for you. And in the 3 factors, we have to read the coefficient of the variables under each factor and choose that particular variable inside a factor which has a higher coefficient. The coefficients here will range anywhere between -1 to +1. Negative coefficient value will mean that it is weak on that factor. The variable is weak on a factor, and a higher coefficient of positive value more towards 1 will indicate that it is very strongly correlating to that factor, right? So there are certain statistics which are actually given here, which are again the 3 the factors which have been picked up and have been shown by not keeping the other factors. So what are the 3 factors here? The 3 factors which have been picked up, their eigenvalues are mentioned, the percentage of variation, the column that I'm ticking, the cumulative percentage of variation is given, which means 3 factors in the solution will contribute to 80%, which is a decent figure. So 3 factors can be used to explain the reading or the study, the perception and attributes of the people. Now, once you call for the rotated factor matrix, you need to read and kindly keep a note here, which is you need to keep in mind that the rotated factor matrix has to be interpreted. All right. So rotated factor matrix has to be, the steps were given in the theory I told you. So the rotated factor matrix, varimax rotation will be used. And this is again the task for the researcher or the manager. Task is to give names to these factors. What are these three factors? That we will understand. What are these three factors? So these three factors means you have to see that out of the 10 items, 10 statements will now be reduced to certain factors, which means a combination of these items will be used to understand what are the three things which are important in studying consumer perception towards a brand, in this case, Jet Airways. So let us see, say in the factor one. In factor one, what did we say? Choose that particular variable which has the highest coefficient. So aircraft is young. All right, this variable has 0.95933 in factor one, but its score is minus 0.03985, very low score in factor 2, and positive but low score 0.02 in factor 3. So aircraft being younger should be in factor 1. So we keep air young in factor 1. All right. So now what do? We are going to keep that in number in the first factor here. All right. So air young will be in factor 1. Boss, that is my boss is also flying in the same aircraft, right? So that statement has a high correlation, and the coefficient is very high in factor 1, 0.57807. Same thing, it has a low correlation, low coefficient in factor 2 and negative coefficient in factor 3. So this boss being also patronizing that brand, it is in the first factor. Comfort in the aircraft, seats are comfortable. That statement has 0.037 score in factor 1, coefficient of 0.09 in factor 2, and 0.96175 in factor 3, which means comfortable aspect of the aircraft is a characteristic of factor 3. So factor 3 will comprise of this. All right. So you're going to use that in that particular factor here. All right. So where is comfort here coming? Comfort will actually come in the third factor here. All right. And here you are getting first two are coming in factor 2. All right. You got it here. I'm mentioning with the arrow. Third factor is in the third variable. Comfort is in factor 3. Where is food going to come in? Food has a high coefficient 0.91167 in factor 1. All right. So finally, you're going to select those factors. So you will see what is factor 1 comprising of. So factor 1 comprised of aircraft being young, bosses patronizing, bosses also going the same aircraft, food of the aircraft, right? And what is our next highest score? Here all are negative, so we are not considering that. On time is having 0.9535. The same variable we will not take in factor 2 and factor 3 because they have low scores. The highest score is in factor 1. And schedule is where? Schedule is here. So what do we have in factor 1? Basically, in factor 1 we have the how old or young the aircraft is, that is how new the aircraft is. All right, whether boss is preferring that, the food served during the flight, and the timing or the schedule of the flight. What does second factor comprise of? Second factor will be comprising of frequent flyer. See here, frequent flying, hostess, that is whether air hostesses are beautiful or not. So in-flight experience basically, and using the flight. Third is lifestyle. If you see these three factors have low correlation in other ones. So frequent flyer in factor 1 is having coefficient of minus 0.02, cannot be considered in factor 1. Frequent flyer has coefficient of 0.98, close to 1, very strongly correlating to factor 2. But the same frequent flyer variable is having a low coefficient of minus 0.00529 in factor 3, cannot consider there. So frequent flyer variable will be considered in factor 2. Along with that, hostess, whether the air hostesses are beautiful or not, only coming in factor 2 with a high coefficient, other not coming in. Lifestyle is coming in factor 2 again with coefficient of 0.95577. See, this is a very, very important part of the reading the output of factor analysis. Many of the students, they tend to do the analysis, but then finally they don't understand that they have to read out, they have to interpret the factors like this. And the purpose is then to name the factors. Just doing a factor analysis is not sufficient. Please understand. You need to understand how this will be used for this study. So when you are going to interpret the factors, you need to take those variables into a factor and see that how you can name the factor. That is what in the case study, the SOLVE case study is going to tell you. The SOLVE case study, therefore, further on talks about how you're going to name the factors. Let us look at the last bit, which is factor 3. What are the high scores in factor 3? Factor 3 has comfort, 0.96. Comfort does not have high correlation in any other factor. The next thing in factor 3 is having a high solution, high coefficient is schedule. So comfort in the aircraft and you have schedule on time, right? These two things are in factor 3. So having understood that, what is the output of the, sorry, let me see. So what is the interpretation? We will reread the interpretation, which is very important. So what we were doing till now is what is the work of the business researcher or the manager, right? Because other things, giving you the output, everything, the statistician also can do it. You can ask somebody who's good in statistics or is operating the software, but you need to know that these are the things which should come out. You should be able to read the eigenvalue, select the factors having eigenvalue of more than one, read the rotated factor matrix, and select the variables in each factor which have a high coefficient in the factor, and the coefficients will range from -1 to +1. The values would range in that range, but you have to select positive factors, positive coefficients in each of the factors. So after you do this, the rest of the interpretation of output is what I've explained. You can read it up, and I've underlined the critical lines which are very important. So first factor, they have named it as customer service. Second factor has been named as flyer incentive. And third factor has been named as convenience. My dear students, this is what is your job. Your job is to interpret the factors, understand which variables will go into the factors. So instead of 10 statements now, you have 3 factors which are going to be of use for you to study attributes and perception of people towards Jet Airways, which is customer service, the flyer incentive factor, and convenience. What are the statements that you will use under customer service? First factor is given here. So what we have done is the statements that are going to be used in that first factor is aircraft being young, boss traveling or not, and sorry, not the comfort, it is food, right? So similarly, the second, so the naming, so earlier it was factor 1, factor 2, factor 3. Now it has been given a name based on the component variable. So first one is customer service, second is flyer incentive, and third is convenience. All right. So factor analysis is done. Please go through this. Tomorrow we will cover cluster analysis, which is used for segmentation. So this is all about factor analysis. Please go through it very coolly. If there are any questions, tomorrow we will see the SPSS operation for cluster and as well as factor analysis, because factor analysis and cluster analysis happens to be one of the most popularly used statistical technique by most of the management researchers. Factor analysis to reduce the data into manageable factors, and cluster analysis more of segmentation. Similar set of data are used, interval scale data. All right, so go through this first of all, understand it well, look at the case study, understand it well, till the interpretation of the output, till the last line that is given in the case study. Understand it, and tomorrow if you have any questions, any doubts, please note it down. Don't put it in the LMS. Keep it for you to be asked in the class tomorrow, because once, even if one person is asking a question, a doubt, it will help clarify not only for that person, the others also can hear and also note it for their clarification as well. All right, so with this, I think if there is no other question, we are almost, we're just on time to finish the class. Please go through the case studies, the solved case studies that I've passed on to all of you. And thank you so much for coming on time and being in the class and helping me to start also the sessions on time. I found most of you had been on time. In fact, right from I think the 2nd or 3rd minute itself, I think we had the full class there. So thank you so much for your time. I wish you a safe time, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.